Benoit does a great job with Peter King's MMQB, and I'm sure he's having a ball today doing probably 100 radio spots talking about the draft over and over and over, but he's kind enough to join us for a couple moments on a Thursday. How you doing, Andy?
Hey, I'm well. How are you?
You're ready to just get the day over with, right?
Yeah, you could say that. It'll be nice to have some answers and speculation.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, everyone's guess is as good as yours and it's good as mine, and that's just how it is with the mock drafts. All right. It's interesting because it seems as though they're clamoring a little bit in Cleveland. When it's all said and done, do they go with Garrett or do they go with Trubisky at the number 1 overall pick?
Well, this will be just a guess as well. I'm hearing people who I respect around the league, and I haven't been asking a whole lot because I kind of feel like this stuff gets answered anyway. But
yes.
I'm surprised how much I'm hearing about Trubisky. I didn't think this was any sort of a decision to make at all, but the fact that it's going on like that we're hearing the discussion even taking place, I think people think it's going to be Trubisky. That would blow my mind, though.
Same here. Because you can get him at 12 and you're getting a defensive player, a great talent, a guy that you can build your team around for the next 10 years. Then you can go and get the quarterback. Then you figure it out going forward. You're right. I don't know if it's a smokescreen. I did radio years ago in Cleveland. I'm getting a bunch of in Dayton. I'm getting a bunch of text messages from people up there, and they are like, "Oh my God, please do not go with this quarterback at number 1." I mean, is it more or less of their past failures or the fact that you're looking at this kid, he's only had a handful of starts in college?
Well, it's that, and there's so many questions about him, legitimate questions. All these QBs have legitimate questions, and I spent time with Trubisky. I spent time with the first-rounders last year, and I think Trubisky, that would be Goff and Wentz, of course, but I think Trubisky has a bright future, but he is by no means a sure thing. And in fact, I think in a normal year, I don't think any of these guys are true first-round prospects. I think there are a lot of, compared to past first-rounders, these guys are second, third-round type quarterbacks, but it's a deep draft, and so teams are going to feel like they can answer their needs later in the draft, so why not take a chance on a quarterback early because it's a premium position. Cleveland doesn't want to go in 2 years in a row without having given a quarterback for Hugh Jackson. So it would be the ultimate reach and the ultimate forced pick. I mean, to pass up a guy who almost everyone agrees is the best edge rusher to come in the league since Von Miller, pure edge guy, to pass that up when you have a bad need for that too, by the way, in Cleveland, and then take a chance on a quarterback. I know you need a quarterback, but that doesn't mean one exists.
What about with some of the players where we're seeing a bunch of these red flags with some of these players late and all of a sudden everyone's scrambling? I mean, I can just throw a couple at you, but it kind of be a moot point at this standpoint at this time. But, some of the players that everyone's looking at, like all of a sudden it seems as though like now Washington might have an interest in Peppers. At the end of the day, are these guys really going to drop their stock, going to drop substantially because of some of these red flags and off-the-field activities and instances?
It really is a case-by-case basis, and what people don't realize, I think, is that when we hear that a guy, so like Peppers, for example, we hear that he failed a drug test, and it's diluted sample,
right,
supposedly. I think and I'm not saying he's done anything beyond that. But a lot of times when guys fail a drug test, the assumption is diluted sample or it was marijuana. And a lot of times it's not that. It's something else, and you can tell by how far a guy's draft stock really falls. These teams know who has the drug issues and who doesn't. And I've been in the room before where names of people that he's just a troubled kid. He's got a few minor pot things. And the reality is he has, and it's not Peppers, but a guy from past years.
Sure.
The reality is he had hardcore drug problems, and his draft stock fell a lot further. If a guy has a marijuana flag before the draft, that's not going to impact his stock very much, if at all. So when a guy drops and it's a drug thing, it's almost, I can't say almost always, but it's likely something worse than what it seems on the surface. Teams know this stuff. It doesn't get out there, though. So I don't know what's up with these guys, but their draft stocks, I think, will be revealing when we see where they're picked.
Hey, look, I don't know how much movement there's going to be. I think it can be a goofy night, a goofy first round, a goofy first couple minutes. But I also look at Carolina at 8. And I think depending upon their pick, I think it really affects what the Eagles potentially might do, because I think when it's all said and done, McCaffrey, if he's on the board at 8, I think Carolina grabs him. Now, first of all, let me get your quick thoughts on him. If he falls to the Eagles, do you think that is the perfect fit with Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz, a young quarterback, young head coach for the offense that they run? Because I believe this kid is so versatile that he's going to be a gem for any team that picks him up.
Well, and so that's the interesting thing. I've been asked a lot about McCaffrey in Carolina, and if you look at the way Carolina plays and the way Philadelphia plays, the style of offense, the way they approach the game, those are two totally different teams. And I agree with you about McCaffrey fitting in Philadelphia.
See, we got Andy. See, we can punch him back up. I'll tell you what, we were waiting on that one. He was going to give us some good stuff. We'll see if we can punch him back up before we get out of here. That was the coup de grace. we had some good stuff on that one. We'll see if we can pull him back up. It sounds like he likes the potential fit of Christian going to the Eagles. He brought up a good point. You still have to look at Carolina and their offense and the type of system. I still maintain he is going to be a fit with Carolina. We'll see if we can punch him up for a couple more minutes, and then we'll let him get out of here. We'll start to wrap it up. You're talking about another potential weapon with Cam Newton, and then another potential weapon with Carson Wentz. So, again, listen, I'm telling you, this kid's going to be special. This kid's going to be special. So we'll punch up Andy, and we'll get his thoughts on McCaffrey. All right, I know you were making it was like a cliffhanger. You were making a good point.
You'll have to tell me where I was. I don't remember. I don't know where.
The two different fits, different offenses with Carolina, and potentially good fit with the Philadelphia Eagles from an offensive standpoint with McCaffrey.
Yeah, so these flexible pieces, these guys like McCaffrey that can play receiver, running back, they tend to fit in quick spread offenses more for a few reasons. One is those offenses, those type of guys tend to just be quicker players, and you got to have quickness for that. But the other is when you align a guy anywhere in the formation, by moving him around, you usually force the defense to reveal what their coverage is before the snap. And you need to have that information if you're a quick strike offense. You need to know the coverage before the snap. That's how the QB can make a smart decision and get the ball out so fast. So that's how they play. It would work in Philadelphia, but you go and look at Carolina, they're not that at all. They're an old-school, deep drop-back passing offense. Their passing concepts are built off of their running game. So a guy like McCaffrey, they might move him around the formation, but their play designs aren't created for that kind of mismatch element. They'd ask McCaffrey to do different things than the Eagles would. McCaffrey probably be a fine player for them, but what makes him special and why we're talking about him as a high first-round prospect is what he can do for your quick game, and Carolina doesn't have that offense.
A couple more for you. I know we're tight on time. When you look at some of these quarterbacks, what about the Jets at 6? Do they take a flyer on a quarterback? Again, a lot of people believe maybe they go defense, maybe if Watson, he would be on the board at 6. I mean, how about the Jets? They draft 3 quarterbacks out of the last 5 odd years. It still hasn't panned out. What route do the Jets go?
I would hope they would not go quarterback because of what you just said. And that doesn't mean that, we shouldn't try again. But we don't know what their guys are. Everybody said Hackenberg needs a year to sit. Well, he's sat a year, and now we evaluate. I don't know why you would move on right away, especially when the next guy you find is probably another Hackenberg, and that he, too, would need a year to sit. So at some point, you got to go get good football players, and you can't just let the guessing game and the wishfulness, you can't let that dictate what you're doing.
All right, a little rapid fire before I let you get out of here. We'll go 10 seconds on each one. How about the Giants? I know it's not a deep draft for linemen. I know there's some talk about tight ends. Obviously, Howard's not going to fall to them to give Eli another weapon. Question marks with that line. Where did the Giants go at 23?
I think they'd still go offensive line, and I think they can go to a lot of different positions because they have current linemen that could be moved around a little bit on their own line. So they've got some flexibility there, and that's going to help them, and that expands their prospect pool.
And the Cowboys at 28, they go corner, they do safety, or they go defensive end?
I think they go best defensive player available. So whoever's rated highest on their board, whether it's a D-end, corner, or safety, and all things even, they'll go D-end in that equation. That's what they do. Yeah,
a lot of people think Harris will be there out of Missouri. And then the Washington Redskins, and I mentioned before you came on the air, I still think they have to go secondary. They have to go corner. So what route do the Skins go?
I agree with you. I would look at safety more than corner for them right now, but that's going to become a function of which corners are left and which safeties are left.
Cook and Mixon, what's more likely to happen? One of those players get drafted in the first round, or they just slide, and then we're talking second, third round, and someone gets a bargain, albeit with some red flags.
Well, Mixon's gotten so much publicity now that I think some of the shock of his stigma has worn off, and I think it's going to be easier for teams to reason that. It's strictly a PR thing. Everybody wants him as a player who can take the PR hit. Someone will feel they can. I'm not saying he'll go tonight, but I wouldn't be shocked if he did.
And then the same with Cook?
Cook, he's almost the inverse of Mixon, that his bad publicity's kind of picked up more as of late.
Yeah.
From what I understand of the two, there are people in the league that feel you can do more with Mixon tactically as a better passing game weapon than you can with Cook. So that would put Mixon on more boards than Cook would be on.
All right, I'll leave you with this as we wrap it up, and I know we're tight, and I appreciate a couple moments. Tomorrow, what will be the headline? Will it be, here we go again, Cleveland, meaning... Are they going to draft Trubisky? What's going to be that bizarre headline tomorrow? Because I think it's going to be a goofy first round.
I agree with you. I think the headline will be that in a year that really didn't present any true clear-cut first-round caliber of quarterbacks, I think we'll see 4, maybe even 5 actually go in the first round. It's the year of the quarterback reach.
Yeah, exactly, in parentheses. Andy, great stuff, pal. Appreciate a couple moments. Keep up the great work with MMQB, and hopefully we'll get you back on again. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, you got it. Andy Benoit, good stuff.